Warning, incoming game over. Warning, incoming game over.
Toronto Maple Leafs fans, it is a good night to be a Toronto fan. The Scepters won their first season opener on Saturday, and tonight the Leafs do what we want them to do all the time and actually beat a team that they are supposed to, handily crushing the Chicago Blackhawks 4-1. Anthony Stolar's best game so far of his career so far as a Leaf. Fraser Minten is a Leaf. Oh my gosh, he's a Leaf. We can never let him go down to minors. We're going to talk about all of that. We're going to talk about the Four Nations Faceoff lineups. We think some people from the Leafs that might end up on those rosters. And we are going to do that all with my good friend Dominic. Dominic, happy to see you, buddy. What a game.
Yeah, this was a great game. It was fun. Like you said, they actually beat a team that they were supposed to. At the end of the last show that I did with Zach, we were talking about going into this stretch. What do you want to see from them? And I had the highly original thought of a winning record.
Big ask.
Looking at this stretch, being a Leafs fan is kind of like, you think you should win most of these games, if not all of these games. And yet, if history teaches us anything, it's that they will find a way to lose. And thankfully, they didn't. Even when things looked dicey, it took 20 seconds for Fraser Minten. I nearly called him Fraser Mittens there. Fraser Minten to settle us back in, make it 3-1. And even a failed Mitch Marner breakaway pass couldn't down our spirits tonight. It was a good, solid win. Excellent play, strong start to this, highly challenging, physically challenging stretch that the Leafs are coming into with a lot of games in not a lot of time.
Well, and you almost called him Mittens, and he might need some because that goal was icy cold. Going into this week, I believe they're at a homestand now, seeing Nashville on Wednesday and then Pittsburgh on Saturday. The Leafs last year were not good at home. If we all remember, they had a losing record at home, and that was evident in the playoffs. They get their 11th home win of the season so far, 15th win to start off, now 15-7-2. I mean, hot Novembers are nothing new to the Toronto Maple Leafs, but it's nice to see that even in a game where the other team really pushed back in the latter half of the first period and basically all of the second period, they were really able to squeak out a good win against a Chicago team that, on paper isn't necessarily making the playoffs right now, but they have a laundry list of players that are out to prove themselves and a laundry list of former Leafs, who many of which tonight I was like, I didn't know he was on Chicago. Like, did you know that Ilya Mikheyev was on Chicago?
No, they kept saying Mikheyev, and I was like, is there another one? And I was about to Google if he was on the team, and then they showed him on the bench taking his helmet off, and I'm like, oh no, there he is. There's our guy.
Yeah.
I was surprised. And TJ Brody, I somehow forgot that he also is playing on this team. I don't know. I think the Blackhawks and the Oilers are like battling it out for seeing who can get the most ex-Leafs. And I don't know. Maybe they should have a playoff series and see which ex-Leafs were better suited for that sort of thing outside of Toronto. Maybe that's what we need to see. Because, Foligno on there as well. It was a little bit of a, hey, you. It's nice to see you again.
I know that
I hope
guy.
You lose tonight.
Yeah. And Tyler Bertuzzi as well, right? Like guys that we were like, oh, right. I always forget. For some reason, I still think Bertuzzi went back to Detroit, even though I know that that's not correct. I completely whiffed on TJ Brody being a Chicago Blackhawk. I completely missed on that. And that Chicago team, despite the fact that they, again, on paper, are not something you would write home about, put up one heck of a fight tonight, making sure that Anthony Stolarz earns every dollar of the contract extension that the Leafs are surely going to give him after a performance like tonight. He was, I named this segment Holy Stoly because through the first 35 minutes of this game, he was far and away the reason that the Leafs were not even just having the lead, but holding it, because in that second period, I mean, to finish the first period, like Chicago, as soon as Austin Matthews got that one goal, it felt like they really turned the afterburners on, and they had the same energy to start the second period. And I'm not going to lie, like when they got that 5-on-3, which I'm sure we're going to talk about, it really felt like there was a really good chance that Chicago could tie it up. And don't get me wrong, like their team, like I said, is not something that we anticipate is going to be making the playoffs. But I mean, their goalie made just maybe not as many great saves, but some unbelievable saves tonight.
Yeah, I was watching him, and there's always those moments when you see a really good goalie on a really bad team, or on a team that's kind of still figuring out who they are. And I felt bad for Soderblum a couple of times because he was making some big stops. He was showing up against the the top players on the Leafs. Matthews got that beauty of a goal. Nobody in the world can be expected to stop that one. But then he stopped Nylander, he stopped Marner, he stopped Tavares until Tavares managed to pinball his way into the net. That was I don't think I've been that surprised by a goal this season to see a Leafs goal go in as I was with that one. It was like, hey, wait a minute, that happened? That went in? Okay, I'll take it. But it seems to be a good goalie, and you kind of wonder what he could do on a team that is a little bit better. And we'll see if he wants to stay and grow with the Hawks and see if they if he can be a big part of this team when they turn the corner. But there's one to watch, I think, when it comes to NHL goaltending.
Yeah, absolutely. He was, again, I wasn't expecting Peter Mrazek tonight, but I wasn't necessarily expecting their goalie to put up as good of a fight as he did. Like, you got to tip your hat to him. He had a really good night, despite the fact that the Leafs did hang 4 on his head. You already mentioned it. That Austin Matthews goal, welcome home, Poppy.
Yeah.
He drives the net and just squeaks it in just under the right pad. Like, what a play. OEL from the very back of the goal line in the Leafs end up to William Nylander, over to Austin Matthews. And you got to imagine that, like, Soderblum's, like, heart is just pounding out of his chest when you see Austin Matthews get time and space and he's coming at you. Like, I can't imagine something that you would want to see less as a goalie.
No, suddenly there is the best goal scorer in the world coming down on you one-on-one. And like I said, you can't really blame the goalie for not stopping that, because Matthews is the best.
Yeah.
He is the best. And, during the Florida game a couple nights ago, not the Tampa one, the Florida one, when they lost, I was really like, I feel Austin Matthews being out of the lineup. And it's because of plays like this, these sort of plays that only he can do, where he can team up with someone like Nylander. Nylander can draw the defense in, and Matthews can just sneak in behind. And he has that ability, and then he has the finish to make it work. And so we see again what we were missing for so long. Even though the team was succeeding without him, there was that sort of joke of, maybe we don't need him anymore. Then he shows up, he does something like this, and you're like, oh no, this guy's the best. You need to have, if you can have him around, you need him around.
Yeah, and there was a lot of moments tonight. Like, I will also say that the game tonight was way more physical than I was anticipating. And it was fast. That first period, they were going back and forth like a ping pong ball. I couldn't believe how quickly the puck was going the other way. And there was, I think they showed it on the Amazon Prime stream, if you watched it, that in the one PK shift, Mitch Marner skated like 1,000 feet in like a minute and 20 seconds.
Yeah, and like Mitch had a great defensive game tonight.
Yes.
They kept highlighting that on the broadcast, but he really did a good job of shutting down what offense the Chicago was trying to generate. And again, the attempted breakaway pass thing will get all the attention, but that shouldn't take away from the fact that he was a net positive in this game, as he almost always is for the Leafs. And this was a good game, just highlighting his less flashy skills.
Yeah, and skills that he's, like you said, he's not necessarily celebrated for at the same rate as we have been celebrating him for while Austin Matthews was out, and while he did all of a sudden become a goal-scoring phenom. That 2-on-1, it's almost like, Mitch, like 3 games ago, you would have shot that. But I do also see what he's trying to create with the 2-on-1 opportunity. The Leafs were really taking advantage of a lot of rebounds tonight. A perfect example of that being the Fraser Minten goal. I mean, I know we skipped JT's goal, but that backhander spin-off looked almost identical to the one that won the series against Tampa a couple years ago. Different spot on the ice. But like you said, like the puck luck tonight from that shot going in, most games we don't have that kind of puck luck on this team. Like it went in and I was like, I don't even know who shot that, because I was convinced that it went off like another one of the Leafs because of how weird it bounced. But Fraser Minten, that goal in the third period, Timmins basically, Minten is behind the net. He passes it up to Timmins at the blue line. Timmins banks it off the end board, and the rebound could not have landed in a more perfect spot. Fraser Minten not only just showing his goal-scoring prowess, but his ability to read the play and find the open space and being in the right place at the right time. And him getting that one-timer, I mean, it just irradiated the passion through the screen. There are a number of photos circulating of Fraser Minten celebrating that goal. And I will say, if you look in the background of that, you know what I don't miss? I don't miss TJ Brodie getting scored on and going like this. Because that's what as soon as he scored, he stick down and just like there's a hole in the ceiling and it fell out of the sky. The Leafs really took advantage of all their opportunities tonight, and it was about good positional play, getting those second chances, and really doing a good job of holding the zone a lot of the time. What else did you see that the Leafs did really well tonight?
I just want to say real quick about Fraser Minten. Like this kid cannot go back to the Marlies, not anytime soon. Like,
I know
he has shown up. He showed up late this year because he got hurt in the weird rookie tournament, and it's been interesting to sort of track his stock over the last year, right? Because he starts last season, he makes the team out of camp. You know, Keefe wants him to be the starting third line center, and he wasn't ready. He obviously wasn't ready. He couldn't keep up with the pros, and he goes back to junior, and it almost felt like over the next several months his stock went down despite him not being with the team, where people were talking about, oh, do you trade him, do you try to get something for him? Then other people are saying, can you even really get anything for him? Like, oh, what's he top out as, a third line center or fourth line center? And so he kind of fell off the radar, and Easton Cowan's star was rising, and there's all the attention on, Nick Robertson, and can he finally make it? And Fraser Minten was kind of forgotten in the background. He gets hurt in the rookie camp. He starts the year with the Marlies, and then he shows up, as the injury parade begins, and all of a sudden he's delivering on what I think we were hoping he would do last year at this time. And you look at what he's doing, what he's accomplished, this goal, his other goal, like he's been there. He's been solid defensively. As more and more guys get unhurt and come back, we're going to have to start sending some people down. He's got to be the last one to go if he has to go. Because at this point, you want him on the team. Until he shows you otherwise, I think he's making a real strong case to earn that spot.
Yeah, and we can use this as a perfect segue into our second segment. Before we do that, let's talk a little bit about how the flag over show of Game Over Network on the Game Over channel is Hyperdrive Hockey. It has all things hockey across all various leagues in multiple countries. Whatever it is and wherever it is, Max, Daphne, and Kev have you covered for all of your hockey news for the steady dose of fun and fan engagement. You can find Hyperdrive Hockey on the Game Over Network YouTube channel or wherever you listen to your podcasts on Hyperdrive Hockey page at thegameovernetwork.com. So, using your wonderful segue of how wonderful Minten has been, I think you hit the nail on the head as to why part of the reason that he did go so far into the radar last year. I think Easton Cowan's point streak, which as far as I know, he's hurt now, but it's still going on, really overshadowed like the Leafs rookies in terms of excitement and things that we were excited about. Now, to be fair, like you said, Easton Cowan started off the year in the preseason on the Leafs. He was very quickly sent back down, and we were all disappointed that we didn't get a chance to see Fraser Minten play earlier in the season. If I remember correctly, last year on the Saskatoon Blades, I think he actually held the record on the team that season for game-winning goals and overtime goals. So he was quietly having like a very good season, but when you live in Ontario, you don't hear news of the Saskatoon Blades. Let's be honest. Unless you're following it super closely and it's like a passion project of yours, it's not generally something that comes across your news feed on the regular by accident. So I think that that's maybe part of it. And there's a part of me that thinks that that's maybe a good thing, right? Like, I think that I do think that there is maybe some concern, even though I know it's early in their rookie careers, that Easton Cowan, because he is playing in London, which is essentially a 2 hours drive from Scotiabank Arena, there is a lot more like magnetism and draw to him, and there's a closer following of the way he's playing. And so there is like an added level of pressure. Now, obviously, that's different, obviously, in the OHL versus the NHL. But I can't help but think that that little bit of time away from Ontario and Ontario hockey maybe gave Minten a little bit of space to grow. And holy cow, man, tonight there were so many moments that made me believe exactly what you said. There is no way he can be sent back down, and if he does, he has to be the last person. There is a very good tweet that I really want to bring up, and I was smart enough to save it, from JD Bunkus. He tweeted it 52 minutes ago. Minten now has 2 fewer points than Domi on the season, and more goals than Max, Holmberg, Kampf, Dewar, and Reeves combined.
Wow.
He has not even played 5 games so far this season, and he is tied with Nick Robertson in goals. And there were a couple of instances tonight in the game where I'm these two are teammates, and they are not competing against each other. Having said that, there was a play that happened in the third period where Nick Robertson was pulling the puck into the neutral zone, and he sort of threw it away to avoid a hit at the last second. And Fraser Minten laid no less than 4 hits solidly tonight. And that is just not something that we have seen Nick Robertson do, other than like, okay, you finish your check and that you run into him. But Minten is actually like driving hits that way, and it's impacting the game. And so there's the more he plays, man, the more I believe that I would rather keep Minten than Robertson.
Yeah, it's a tough one, because I think there's still part of everybody that wants to root for Nick Robertson.
Of course,
we see it.
Yep.
There.
Yep.
You can see it, that he has a lot of talent, and it's just for whatever reason not coming together, not here, not now, at the very least. Later, somewhere else, who knows? But at this moment in time, it's not coming together. And here's Minten showing up. He is kind of, Robertson was the young phenom for a long time. Now he's kind of moving into being just a guy. And Minten is, he represents kind of that young phenom. Again, he surprised everybody last year and made the team out of camp. And then we kind of forgot about him for a bit. Like you said, he went back to Saskatoon. But here he shows up again and goes, no, I am still that guy that made the team out of camp. I still have those skills. I can deliver on those. And, he's very good in his own end. Like you said, he finishes his checks, and he's showing up and he's scoring goals. Like you said, he's played half the games and has as many goals.
and more assists.
Yeah, and the results are sort of speaking for themselves. Now, obviously, the question with any young player is, can it be sustained?
Sure.
Can we are we still going to be talking this way in February, March, April, or even, this time next year? That's, to be determined. But right now, if we look at the small sample sizes that we have, it's hard not to say that Fraser Minten has been more impactful than Nick Robertson on this team. And, again, not to just pick on Nick, but, more impactful than a lot of other guys. And you named a couple of them there, like, Pontus Holmberg, another guy that I've been rooting for. I want to see him succeed, and I think they've finally started to use him a little bit more effectively. He was pretty decent against Tampa Bay the other night.
Yep.
But there's another one where you're asking the question, who is the third line center on this team? It was Pontus's job to lose, and I think he lost it to Fraser. I think Minten's got it at this point. Again, in this moment, right here, right now, I think you're starting Fraser Minten until he gives you a reason not to.
Yeah. I mean, considering, we're still missing a number of guys in the lineup. And, the whole argument of Nick Robertson or Fraser Minten, they're different players. They play different positions. Fraser Minten is capable of playing center. I could live the rest of my life never seeing Nick Robertson even try and play center ever again. I don't need to see that. Yeah. At this point, like you said, it would take a cosmic mess up on Fraser Minten's end to not be considered as a long-term solution and a long-term piece on this team. You know, we've been talking, you know, it's the 24th game of the season tonight. We're just over like a third of the way through the season, just under a third of the way through the season, pardon me. And the more time goes on, the tougher it's becoming to justify keeping Nick Robertson. Now, having said that, what's going to happen if they trade him is he's going to go off and he's going to score a hat trick against the Leafs on his return. And it is going to be a comeback for the ages. And that's great. I just don't think that is going to be in the cards for him on this team. He's got over 100 games in the NHL so far, man. He should be playing better than he is, and he's just not. Now, like you said, is this a flash in the pan for Fraser Minten? I don't think so. Is it possible? Sure. But I don't think it's probable. Like, given how strong he's been so far in the Marlies, I think he had some absurd amount. He's like a +5 on the Marlies in like 10 games or 12 games or something. But tonight he gets the third star. The stars tonight. First star, Anthony Stolarz. I mean, 964 save percentage. God bless Anthony Stolarz. Yeah. Austin Matthews getting the second star. Fraser Minten had 13 minutes on the ice tonight.
Yeah. That's
like,
good. That's a solid third line center right there. That's good, solid third line center minutes.
Yeah.
Hard to argue.
Yeah. And I'm just pulling up their team stats here because I just really quickly, I saw earlier that he's like 9th on the team in scoring. Oh my gosh. He has
really.
Oh my golly.
That's a little bit of an indictment of the secondary scoring this year.
Yeah.
Everybody said, "Oh, how are they going to score without Tyler Bertuzzi and all that stuff?" The answer is they just aren't. They just aren't. Matthews, Marner, Nylander, Tavares, those guys will do it all again, and everybody else. Nyes will kick Nyes in there as well.
Yeah.
But everybody else is lagging behind.
Yeah. Well, and another player tonight that has decided that he's going to make space for himself on this team, Matthew Nyes. Last season he was good. This year he has been like a showstopper. Oh my golly. I didn't realize how much I missed him. The game on Saturday, like the post-game picture of like Mitch Marner beside Matthew Nyes. Matthew Nyes is like, he's like colossal next to Mitch Marner. It looks like Mitch Marner's like his little cousin. It's his. If you haven't seen it, go on the Leafs Instagram. It's hysterical. Again, another player that was off on injury coming back. He got a goal on Saturday. He gets the empty netter tonight. And boy, howdy, did we miss him on that top line, eh? Like, what a difference it makes when your top line isn't just Mitch Marner and some guys.
And some guys. Yeah. I mean, and even when you see him with Matthews and Nylander, you put him with whoever and he elevates the play.
Yeah.
The comparison, it's hard not to make the comparison of Zach Hyman. We've been looking for the solution, looking for somebody to fit in a Zach Hyman, what we thought was a Zach Hyman shaped hole to, figure out how to play that position. And it turns out it was a Matthew Nyes shaped hole. Yeah, because that's exactly, he's fit in perfectly. It wasn't a Michael Bunting. It wasn't a Nick Ritchie. It wasn't Calle Yarncroke, even though he did all right in that spot from time to time. It was Matthew Nyes, and he's filled in. He has become like a stalwart on this team. Somebody that you miss when he's not in the lineup. The closest comparison on the team would be someone like Bobby McMahon, and I miss Bobby McMahon. I wish he was in the lineup.
Sure,
I'd take him over Alex Nylander, but I didn't miss him the same way that I missed Matthew Nyes.
No, he's just so big in front of the net, and he's so strong. Even a couple plays tonight, I mean, it's only Matthews' second game back after coming back from 9 games away from the team. There were a number of instances tonight where one of the Chicago Blackhawks players was trying to get the puck off of him, and with one hand on the stick holding the puck, he literally just shoves the Blackhawk player, and the Blackhawk just, like, falls on the ground. Like, so much of tonight's game was just everything that we wanted to see. There was unbelievable goaltending that kept the Leafs in it. Like, I mean, again, we've knocked on wood basically every show so far this season talking about the goaltending. I don't even know if I can put properly into words how nice it is to have somebody in goal that is capable of doing that. Now, on the other end of the ice, we did see that Arvid Soderblum almost played a prank on his team and completely miffed on a pass, and Steven Lorentz very nearly buried it. And it's just really nice to not have a goalie that does those things, because if you are on any kind of social media or follow any other teams in the NHL, you have seen the fact that Ilya Samsonov played 2 pranks on his team, the Vegas Golden Knights, the other day. And it's just so nice to have somebody in goal that makes multiple plays in a game that earn him a standing ovation, and not just you normally let 5 in and you made a save. Looking at you, Jack Campbell, so we're going to give you a standing ovation. Like, for us to have a goalie that in a game where we should win have a .964 save percentage, if you're new to the Leafs, you're going to be like, what's the big deal? We don't know. Normally, those are the games where we're like, we have an .870 save percentage, and we won because of an empty netter in overtime. Like, normally, those are the games that don't go our way. And so we get the bounces tonight. We get the goaltending tonight. We get a goal from the captain. We get a goal from our rookie. We get an empty netter. Like, just sign your name on the dotted line, kid.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, this sort of goes back to what I was saying off the top. Like, these are the games that the Leafs typically lose, and part of that has been, the forwards don't show up, the scoring doesn't show up, the defense doesn't show up, but also the goaltending doesn't show up. And so while there were moments when it looked like they may fall into old habits, at points in the second period, and especially when Reichel scored that one Chicago goal, you're kind of sitting there wondering, are we about to fall back into our old habits? There was Anthony Stolar saying, no, you're not. I am here now, and I'm going to drag you along with me with every incredible acrobatic save that I make, including the thing where he picks up the puck with his blocker again. That wasn't quite as cool as the bare hand, but I'll take a blocker pickup. He's like, he just made sure he's just reliable. He's strong. He's good. Like, he's everything you can ask for in a goalie. And Joe Woll is the same way. Like, between the two of them, you don't go into any game thinking, oh gosh, they're starting. They better have their A game. They both show, no matter who's starting, you think, all right, we should be okay. Now everybody else just has to do their part.
Yeah. It feels like with every game, our goalies are giving us a chance, which in years past, we've maybe had one goalie that's like feeling hot right now. But then it's the next game. It's like, well, we had the really good goaltending the other night. So back to the drawing board, fellas. And it doesn't feel like that at all so far this year. Now, again, it's early. It's December 2nd. Okay. There is still over 60 essentially 58 games to play in the season. There's, lots and lots of things can happen. But so far, the assurances that we have seen between the pipes has been nothing short of miraculous. I have no doubt that if he continues to play the way that he does, then even literally in this off season, as soon as they can re-sign Stolars, they will, because he has come in and been, for somebody that has only ever played a backup role, he has come in and been better than I think any of us really anticipated or even dared to hope. Really, we were all hoping he would be great, but I mean, did you really think that this was even in the cards?
No, I think you sign someone like Stolar's going, okay, let's hope for a 900 save percentage. Like, that's the best we can hope for. It can be a solid backup where we aren't going into it into a game that he starts as an assumed loss.
Sure.
Which, sorry, Sammy. There were some points last year. Where you saw he was in the net. It was an assumed loss. You never feel that way with Stolars in net. In fact, you feel pretty good. You feel pretty good about your chances. And like I said, it's the same thing as soon as you switch over to the other guy. You're not worrying about it. So much in the same way they locked up Woll for a couple of years, it'd be nice to see him do the same with Stolars. Maybe, jump on that a little earlier, a little sooner rather than later, so you don't wind up in a situation where he's played himself out of town by being so good, where he knows he can get more money elsewhere, even with the cap supposedly rocketing up.
Allegedly, yes.
Yeah.
It is definitely one of those things where, on the one hand, he's playing great, but also, please don't cause yourself to be out of this market. Having said that, the Leafs have invested a lot of money in their forwards, but they've never had a reason to invest big money in their goalies. right? Like the goalies in the last couple of years that wanted big contracts, the Jack Campbells, the Ilya Samsonovs, the Matt Murrays of the world, who were hoping for a large contract, weren't playing well enough to even really sit down at the table and have a conversation about it. No. Anthony Stolarz has come in and been like, oh, I'm sorry. Did you think that I was going to be just good? Let me become an actual Vezina candidate, honestly, based on his play so far. To end the second period, the last note that I have of the second period was Ryan Donato is going to have nightmares of Stolarz. There was that one play that he had where Donato shot on goal. He gets his own rebound and very nearly buries it. I mean, Stolarz was just so good tonight. Oh, my golly.
Fantastic.
Ooh, so hot in here.
A+.
So hot in here. Yes. So talking about that, let's talk about the rest of the lineup. We're going to move over into our third period. Make sure you hit subscribe, and you better be sharing with your other Leaf friends, because if you don't, we will find out. Before we go over to the third period, let's really, really, really quickly talk a little bit about how Game Over is an independent production focused on community, inclusion, and quality people. And if you're interested in supporting our network, we have crowdfunding options available. In the description of this episode down below, you'll find a link to our Patreon page. It's got all kinds of awesome stuff. There's some special things if you get to the higher levels. But we're also doing a crowdfunding through LaRouche, which is a crowdfunding platform for companies that are originating in Quebec. For LaRouche, we're aiming to raise around $15,000. And if we hit that goal, we'll gain access to all kinds of government grants that will allow us to employ our people and get us better resources, and to be able to actually sponsor our own videos and get a crowd a little bit bigger and back to where we have been in years past on another network that we will not name. If you have any ideas of what you'd like to see or how we could improve the show, please send that in an email down to some of the people that are down below. Or like I said, visit all of our pages, go to our Patreon. We're always really active on our Discords and everything else, and it would be really nice to see you also. Please, if you could hit like and hit subscribe one more time before we move over to the third period and talking about the Four Nations Cup. So let's talk about the Four Nations rosters. Now, those have gone in today. We will not find out who is on these rosters until Wednesday. Now, I don't know if you've had any time to consider some of the people that, because I didn't really give you any lead up time on this. My apologies. Who do you think? Who are your your automatic? You're going to not be in the country in February because you're probably going to be playing in the Four Nations Faceoff.
Yeah, I mean.
The free square is Austin Matthews.
Yeah, I was gonna say, aside from the guys who are already on the team, so Austin, Willie, they're going out there. I think the third one is Mitch. I think he's almost guaranteed a spot on Team Canada. The thought of putting him with McDavid is pretty enticing, and that could be pretty exciting.
Who's gonna shoot though?
Somebody's got to. You got to put a sniper on that on the other wing. I feel like Mitch is a real strong candidate. I also, they were talking a little bit about this on the broadcast on the Amazon stream. Tavares has been playing himself into the conversation this year. I don't think I would have necessarily thought about him as being, anything more than maybe an alternate coming into the year. But he has, really shown up this year. He's really kind of bounced back from, he does seem to start strong and then fizzle out, but he has kind of brought it in a way this year that he hasn't in a while. And, you look at the kind of goals he's been scoring lately. There's definitely some confidence there. There's definitely some leadership there. I think he's somebody you might want to consider, right? Or I think they would want to consider as a role player, quote unquote, on this sort of team. I think there's been some consideration of Stamkos as being on the team. I almost think maybe you want the other first overall draft pick who wears 91 from Toronto on the team this year. And I think Tavares might have played himself into that consideration. Again, maybe he's more likely as an alternate, but it would not surprise me to see him on the roster when it's announced on Wednesday night.
Be a heck of a fourth liner.
Yeah.
Be a heck of a fourth liner. Now, there are a couple of Canadian defensemen on our team. I'm going to take a wild guess and say that maybe if we're lucky, one of them gets on. Who do you think that would be? Who you got your money on?
Going into this year, I would have said Riley. He's been, in all the years when people do their projected Team Canadas for if they would go to the Olympics or if they were to do a World Cup this year, he's always kind of in there. He's always in consideration. And I don't think he's done anything to take himself out of consideration necessarily. But having seen Chris Tanev play so well this year and in such a defensively minded role, like, I love Mo, but he's an offensive defenseman. He's going to help generate some offense. Tanev is going to be there to try and stop the other team's offense. And knowing what Canada's goaltending situation looks like right now, where, I don't know, I think you give it to Marc-Andre Fleury and hope for an old man miracle, one last ride, kind of going off into the sunset kind of situation.
I'd be down for that.
Yeah. But whoever's in net's going to need some help. And I think you have to consider somebody like Tanev who has that ability to hopefully prevent some of the offensive chances going the other way, especially when you're going to have, the elite talent of the Americans, the Swedes, and the Finns all coming at you in every single game.
Yeah, I tend to agree with you, actually. I think that there are a number of offensively minded defensemen that are Canadian already. The good thing is the Four Nations Faceoff, there's no salary cap. So if you think about it, who would you rather have, Darnell Nurse or Morgan Riley as your offensive defenseman?
I think you still go Mo. I like Darnell Nurse,
Wow.
fair enough, but I think I'd still go Riley.
Wow. I do agree with you, though. I'm just being a pot stir. I do think Tanev does get the nod. I think it's the likelihood of two Leafs defensemen getting onto the Four Nations Canada team is laughable. I think at best there will be one. Another defenseman that may quietly, given the fact that he won a Stanley Cup last year and how well he's played so far this year, may play for Team Sweden.
Yeah.
Oliver Ekman-Larsson.
Yeah. I again would not be surprised. I will be honest, I'm not super familiar with all of the Swedish defensive depth.
Oh, me neither.
So I don't know who's coming out in favor of OEL, but he's kind of, he's maybe cooled off a little bit in the last little while. He got off to a real hot start with the Leafs where, if he plays the way he did for the first couple of weeks of the season, or the way he did in the Stanley Cup for Florida, then I think whoever's picking the team for Sweden has to give him a real long look. But more lately, he's kind of faded into the background. While Jake McCabe and Chris Tanev and Morgan Riley have kind of gotten more of the spotlight on the Leafs, but the potential's there, and in a real fast, real short tournament like this, he may be the kind of guy that can show up, give you a couple of real good games, and then hopefully win you. What's the prize in this tournament? Is it a gold medal? Is it a trophy? It would
have to be a trophy, right? Like there's 4 teams.
Yeah.
Like, what are you gonna do? Give out 3 medals and then the last place team is the only team that gets nothing? That seems a bit silly.
Yeah.
I would imagine that you would just have a trophy, right?
Yeah.
That would be my guess.
Some sort of thing, yeah.
That would be my guess.
Maybe you just pin a bunch of ribbons on them like they're horses or something.
Yes, sure. Or if you've ever been to horse racing, they put that wreath of flowers around them, just like that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Who wouldn't love to see Austin Matthews wearing one of those?
Me? He's playing for Team America. Are you kidding me?
Yeah,
Screw
fair.
you, Austin Matthews. For only those 2 weeks, please never leave. Luke Venables deciding that he wants to choose violence in the chat. Defensively minded, Tanev has as many goals as Matthews in the last Leaf 10 games. Ha 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 ha. That is cherry picking stats if I have ever seen it, Mr. Venables. Like I said, make sure you get your questions in the chat. We're gonna get to those in just a second. Is there anybody else that you think could be playing themselves into a spot? I mean, the Americans will be pretty set in terms of their goalies, but if I wanted to mix things up, I would consider Anthony Stolarz. He's been phenomenal so far this year.
Yeah, he's been phenomenal. The thing with the Americans is that they're so good.
There's
and
so many
deep this year that the best Americans on this team, aside from Austin Matthews, in previous years, in previous tournaments, you might have been looking at Matthew Nyes thinking, yeah, he could be a fourth liner on Team USA, or you might have been looking at Jake McCabe going, Jake McCabe's American, right? Yeah. He could be a 6'7" defenseman on Team USA, and then you look at the roster that's projected for this year, and you go, oh, if they're pulling up Matthew Nyes and Jake McCabe, it means a lot of guys have gotten hurt between now and February, whatever, when this tournament starts.
Yeah.
So it's again, both of those guys have had great seasons, and we love them on the Leafs, and they should probably get a chance to play for Team USA at some point. And who knows, in a couple of years, Matthew Nyes might have played himself into that conversation. But I think they're more likely to be world championship kind of guys than Four Nations Cup. But hopefully they're not, because the Leafs go so deep in the playoffs, they can't go to the world championships.
Wouldn't that be a shame? Well, and on that note, it would be cool for Anthony Stolarz, I'm sure, to play for his country, but at the same time, it would be really nice to know that whole thing's going to happen and our goalie won't get hurt. Right? That is the other half of that. I mean, like you said, the rosters on literally every single nation are only getting better and better and better every year. Cole Caulfield, who is lighting it up for the Canadians, maybe the only person lighting it up for the Canadians this year, will likely not make the Team USA roster, which is just bananas. And that's how deep it is. It really does feel like this whole competition, this whole tournament, it is just going to be like the roll of the dice of who's going to win. Every team is going to have their prowess. Like the Canadians get McDavid, which is pretty sweet. But the Oilers have proven that just because you have McDavid on your team does not guarantee you winning anything. Yeah. It takes more than just a goal scorer. It takes goalies. It takes defensemen. And it's going to be really interesting to see come February, or I guess coming this Wednesday, what the projected lines are. I mean, we know that Brad Marchand is going to be on it. We know that obviously Connor McDavid is going to be on Team Canada. I would be shocked if Mitch Marner didn't make it onto Team Canada. It's pretty incredible that our team that we love so dearly is likely going to have a large chunk of their guys out playing in this tournament. And that's just, it's a testament to how much talent there is on this team.
Yeah. The last time I feel like I remember this many Leafs were on this sort of team. It's like the 2002 Olympics. You're going way, way back to Cujo and Matt Sundin and Alex McGillney and guys like that, all going over to play for their teams, for their countries. Yep. But the 2014 Olympics, 2016 World Cup,
the 2010, I don't think had any Canadians that were on the Leafs.
Yeah.
If I remember correctly.
They just haven't. The Leafs haven't been that good for a while. And now, the fact that, Matthews has already been named to the American squad, and it seems like it's a shoo-in for a couple of these other guys to go. And Willie's already been named to the Swedish squad. We haven't even mentioned that. Two guys are already guaranteed to go. A third seems almost a certainty. A fourth seems very, very likely, and a fifth is not out of the question. Yeah,
it's all plausible. And for us to have as many people in this tournament as are injured right now would be pretty remarkable. Make sure you do get your questions, and there were a couple comments in here that I want to talk about. Primarily, someone decided that they want to fight me by saying, Matt Wilkins, today I learned for a living, puts pineapple on pizza, and I immediately want him fired. First of all, how dare you? Pineapple is an underrated pizza topping. You know what is a waste of a pizza topping? Mushrooms. Just saying.
I'll agree on the mushrooms.
You don't like pineapple? That's okay. We can still be friends.
I don't like pineapple on
that
pizza,
means
but I also
on Saturday
don't feel the need to fight about it.
if we see each other on Saturday and we have pizza, you can just give me the pineapple from your pizza.
I'll just pick it right off the slice and
Boom.
hand it to you.
And I will eat it because we are friends, and that is what friends do for each other. Music for Al. Robertson always looks like he's being pushed off the puck and falling. Didn't draw a penalty. I don't think he fell that much tonight, Al, but he's definitely pushed off the puck a lot more than Gulbenkian or Fraser Minten at this point. Gulbenkian got very close to scoring a good goal tonight. He had an unbelievable drive to the net that he didn't unfortunately get the penalty called for, but he probably could have. It's definitely, the more time goes on, man, the more that stock, even though I know he scored the other day, the less interested I am in seeing him.
Yeah, I will say I've really, really enjoyed Nikita Gulbenkian being on this team. He will, I'm sure, go back to the Marlies at some point, and it will be sad to see him go. But I hope he's a guy who winds up being another sort of Bobby McMahon kind of guy who kind of plays a little up, plays a little down, plays a little up, plays a little down, and then finally sort of solidifies himself as a Maple Leaf, because I love his style of play. I love his vibe. What was it? Back check, forecheck,
paycheck,
body check, paycheck, that's I remember about a month ago we were talking about the team motto. That should be the team motto for this year. The guy is just entertaining and seems to be a good addition to the team. So he'll go back, he'll play some more games at Coca-Cola Coliseum at some point, but I hope that his return to the Leafs is not too far away, and that he'll stick around for a while.
Yeah, the vibes are immaculate with him. And even after that last game where he said that, or the game the other day where he said that, Fan First Network, who actually loves doing the interviews, if you're on YouTube and you're a Leafs fan, it probably comes up these like bunch of guys that stand in front of Scotiabank and talk to fans as they're coming out of the game. He left the building and said the same thing to those guys. And they right in front of Legends Row. Oh my gosh, if you haven't seen it, go look it up. It's fantastic.
I like the fact that he realized he came up with a good line. And
I'm
going to use this at every opportunity. If he's smart, he'll have T-shirts with that made in no time. Yeah, he'll be the next Marcus Stroman with the height doesn't measure heart T-shirts. Except his will be back check, body check, forecheck, paycheck, or whatever.
Forecheck, back check, paycheck. Or he's gonna get just like how Ilya Mikheyev, we brought him up a number of times tonight, got the Campbell's soup sponsorship. Yeah. Someone get Nikita Grabenkin in front of RBC and just put him on an advertisement, because that's fabulous.
Oh, he can be in those commercials with Austin and
yes,
that other person.
Absolutely. Oh, they can have matching turtlenecks. It'll be fabulous. Yeah. Luke Venables in the chat. With the news that Ovi is skating again, am I a bad Leafs fan for hoping that he is healthy before they play the Caps before the Caps play the Leafs on the 28th, because I will be in the building? I mean, no. I mean, there is a part of me that doesn't want Ovi to score again against the Leafs this season, just because I'm a proud Leafs fan. On the other hand, though, the chances of him not scoring is low. Yeah. Even though there's a chance that he won't even be back in time. I mean, he's been out 2 weeks. He was skating this morning. We all know that the Russian machine doesn't like to break. I would not be surprised if he is back sooner than projected, because it is Alexander Ovechkin, and he is chasing a milestone, and this is kind of what he does. If you have any last-minute questions, get them in, because we're going to end the stream soon. Another fine podcast from Game Over Ottawa. Very close, Roger. I don't even think Ottawa's playing tonight, but you're welcome to hang out with us on Game Over Toronto, because we would love to have you. So make sure, again, if you haven't already, make sure you please hit make sure you hit subscribe, make sure you share this with a friend, even after fact. If there were any really good moments that you want us to highlight, or anything that you thought was overly hilarious, please make sure you let us know. And if you do comment, we will always make sure to comment back. Do you have anything else you want to talk about here for the evening, Mr. Dom?
No, I feel like we've covered a lot. It's been a good fun show covering a good fun game. Man,
it's good to see you, buddy.
Yeah, it's good to be back.
And tomorrow the Leafs do not play, but the Toronto Scepters do play tomorrow at 7 p.m. Please make sure you, if you are able to watch the game tonight on Prime, it means you can watch the Scepters game tomorrow against the Ottawa Charge. And on Saturday, Wednesday, Game Over Toronto will be back when we play the Nashville Predators. We will also be back on Saturday when we take on the Pittsburgh Penguins. So all kinds of Toronto hockey coming up this week. The November schedule was quite light, and December is quite the opposite. So you'll be seeing lots of both of us, and Zach, of course, as well this month. So please make sure you hit it would be the best Christmas present ever if we could get up to 200 subscriptions in December. Yeah. Wouldn't that be great? So if you could help us achieve that goal, it would go a long way. If you have watched, if you have listened, thank you for being here tonight and spending your evening with us, or your morning commute, because that's usually where I listen to my podcasts. Dom, where can everybody find you on all the socials?
You can find me at DominicJ25 on Instagram, Twitter, and Blue Sky, theoretically, on all of them. And if you want to talk some Star Wars, Skeleton Crew also premiered tonight. This is how much you know I love doing this show, is because I'm not watching Skeleton Crew right now, even though the first two episodes are out. You can tune into the Star Wars Underworld podcast. That's my other show, and we will be breaking down those episodes in painful levels of detail. So do tune in. It will be a lot of fun.
That's the other reason that we're friends, is because you're a nerd like me. And you can find me on Twitter, on Blue Sky, at Lauren in the Six. If you unlike Dom, who does not pay attention to those, I am on those basically all the time. So if you have any questions, if you have anything that you think we should talk about that maybe we didn't tonight, make sure you reach out to all of us on those social medias. It will go a long way. Thank you again for being here. Make sure you check out our merch. Make sure you check out the links below and follow us and like and subscribe. Have a great night, everybody. Leafs win 4-1 over the visiting Chicago Blackhawks. Eat it, Connor Bedard.